I'm Bonnie Barker with BonnieBabeCrochet.com, and I want to welcome you to my Bonnie Babe Crochet YouTube channel. Okay, today to help celebrate National Crochet Month, we're going to be crocheting this braided swirl scarf. This scarf can be worn as a scarf, obviously. It can also be worn as a shawl. It's a lot of fun to make, and it's really fun to wear as well. Okay, for this, what you're going to need, for the original, I used approximately 800 yards of fairy tale knits. All that information for acquiring this yarn is in the pattern. I'm also going to include it on the information to this video. You're also going to need a size G crochet hook, and I recommend you have one of those plastic yarn needles to try to help hide the loose ends when we're finished. Okay, some other possible yarn substitutions, I would recommend any kind of like a fingering weight or a sock yarn that would work up nicely, and I believe the gauge and sizing would be very similar to what I have here. But I don't want to limit you to even that only. If you wanted to try this with some larger yarn, let's say DK weight yarn, you could do that. Make sure that you size up your crochet hook to fit the yarn appropriately. And also know that the sizing and the gauge is going to be a little different from the pattern. But this is one of those patterns where gauge really doesn't matter. And you can make this as big or as small as you prefer. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, today I'm going to be using a yarn that I found in my stash that I'm going to be substituting. It is also a fingering weight yarn with a little bit of a glitzy sparkle that's really kind of nice. And I'm going to be using a size G or 6 crochet hook. And just to let you know, the gauge on this is not really so important since it is a wraparound scarf and you have flexibility on what yarn you would like to use. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, to begin, we're going to chain 4. So I'm going to start with my slip knot, and we are going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the pattern says to work 4 double crochets in the 4th chain from the hook. So the 4th chain, 1, 2, 3, 4th chain from the hook is actually the 1st chain we worked. So we're going to go ahead and work 4 double crochets in that spot. Okay, I'm going to turn. That is row 1. And I will say that we are starting on the very small, narrowest part of the scarf. And then as we go, it's going to build. Okay, then we're going to chain 3. This is the beginning of row 2. And 2 double crochets in each stitch and in the turning chain. So let's work 2 double crochets in each stitch. As I do this, I just want to ask your forgiveness. I am recovering from a cold, so if it sounds like I could sing bass in the choir right now, I probably could. Don't normally sound like this, but I'm just really thankful that I do have somewhat of a voice back to get back to work and be crocheting with you all again. Alright, so now we're going to put 2 double crochets also in that turning chain space. You don't have to work it in as, just one loop. Just put them in through that whole chain there. Okay, so let's go ahead and check our stitch count. We should have 10 stitches. Now I will mention that in the stitch count I am not including the turning chain. I'm going to refer to turning chains as turning chains, not as anything else. I'm a little bit old school when I learned to crochet more than 40 years ago, and we usually called turning chains, not double crochets, but just wanted to be clear on that. So we have, as far as double crochets go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, according to the pattern. And for row 3, we're going to turn. We're going to chain 3. Now this is where our braided cable is going to start. For those of you who have worked some of my other stitches on my YouTube channel, that's the Bonnie Babe Crochet YouTube channel, know that when I've worked the braided cable in the past, that it has a total of 6 stitches. Well, we're using a large braided cable in this particular pattern. So to begin with, we're going to skip 4 stitches. The reason we skip 4 instead of 3 is because we do not use this end stitch in the count.
or at least when we make our 9-stitch braid. So we're going to skip this stitch and 3 more. And then we're going to work front post treble in the next 3 stitches. For those of you who have never worked post stitches, we do not work them through the top like this. We don't do that. We actually work our hook around the body of the stitch like you're giving it a belt, and then we just complete that treble crochet. Okay, let's do that again on the next one. Our stitch comes around, and also for further clarity, I've been asked if it goes in through the top like this, and the answer is no. It's not like a scarf. It's you're giving the stitch a belt, if that helps. It's around the entire the body of the stitch, not through the upper section of the stitch. Okay, so after we've done that, we're going to work in front of these last 3 stitches we just worked, and we're going to front post treble in the last 3 stitches that we skipped. Remember, we're not working this first stitch. So we're going to come back in front of these stitches. This might be a little bit of a stretch since we're just starting. And we do front post trebles in those 3 stitches that we skipped, okay? You may have to go hunting for them a little bit because, okay, there's the 3rd one that we skipped. Now we simply work front post trebles in the next 3 stitches. Okay, so after we do that, we're going to work a half double crochet, a chain 1, and then a half double crochet again in that turning space. Now this is what I'm calling a half double crochet V-stitch, or we'll just refer to it as a V-stitch, but just know that when we talk about these, that these are made up of half double crochets, not double crochets. Okay, so that's the end of row 3. Now we're going to chain 3, turn, and we're going to work row 4. Okay, so now we're going to work a half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet in that chain 1 space. Okay, this is what we're going to do a lot of for this pattern. This is our V-stitch, and these are going to be worked right there in between that little hole where the chain 1 was. Okay, just go right into that big hole, half double crochet, chain 1, and a half double crochet. Okay, now we work the part where the braid is. Now this is with the back side facing, and to do this we're going to skip the first 3 stitches. We're going to back post treble into the next 3, and these 3 stitches you see are kind of leaning towards us when we flip this up. So let me show you. That's 1 back post treble, and a back post treble crochet, you're just coming in the back door, and you're wrapping your hook around that stitch and then completing the treble crochet as you normally would. Now working in front of these last 3 stitches as seen from the front side, we're gonna work 3 back post treble crochets. Okay, and now we just find the next 3 treble crochets, which are right here, and we do 3 more back post treble crochets. This is probably the more difficult part of the pattern, just getting started. Once you've done this a few times, I promise you it will become easier to see and definitely more automatic. Okay, at the end of row 4, I've been working hats, so you can tell I'm used to working in rounds, but we're working in rows now. I'm going to work a half double crochet, just go right through that space. You don't have to connect it to a single strand, just right to the entire chain. All right, now let's turn Now to begin row 5, I'm going to chain 3. And just to let you know, we're going to chain 3 at the beginning of every row. We're going to skip the first 4 stitches, the 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to front post treble in the next 3 stitches. You'll also do this at the beginning of each odd number rows where the front side is facing. Okay, now working in front of the last 3 stitches that we just worked, we're going to front post treble in the last 3 that were skipped. Remember not to work in that first stitch there. Okay, now we front post treble in the next 3 stitches. Now the next 3 stitches are actually playing hide and go seek here. They're the next 3 stitches that are hidden behind these 3. Okay, make sure you use your tall man and thumbkin there on your fingers to try to pull those out so that you can see them. Okay. Now we get to the V stitches. You're going to work another V stitch in that chain 1 space, which is a half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet. Okay. And you're going to do the same in the turning chain. Okay, we're going to work another half double crochet V stitch in that turning chain. So you can see that every other row you're going to add another V stitch. For row 6, we're going to chain 3, and we're going to work a half double crochet in between the V, each V stitch. Okay, so the chain 1 space, I'm going to work that V stitch, the half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet. Now do be careful, do not put 1 here because that's not in the middle of the V, that's in between the V stitches. So we find the next V stitch and we do another half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet. And now that brings us to the back side of the braid. And for the braid, we skip the next 3 stitches. We back post treble in the next 3 stitches. And working in front of those 3 stitches as seen from the front side, we're going to work 3 back post trebles in those 3 skipped post stitches. Okay, now for the last 3, we just do the next 3 post stitches. Back post trebles here. 1, 2, and 3. And as a rule throughout this project, when you get to the end with the back side facing, when we're working on these braids, we just do a half double crochet right there. Okay, now let's turn. Let's take a look at what we have. So we can see this side growing, and then this is our braid, and it's looking more like a braid. Okay, now for row number 7, there's a lot of repeating here, so a lot of these rows are going to be similar. The only thing that's going to be different is the number of V stitches on the left side. Okay, so to start, we skip the first 4 stitches. We front post treble in the next 3 stitches. Working in front of these 3 stitches, we work 3 front post treble in the last 3 stitches that we skipped. Just as a repeat, just as a reminder, we don't work on that first end stitch there. Okay, now we work the next 3 front post trebles, and they're a little hidden, so we need to let's see where that first one is. Okay, it's right there. Okay, A little tricky to find, but again, depend on your non-dominant hand to help you locate those stitches, because these fingers can feel exactly where the next stitch is. Okay, after we've completed that braid, those 9 stitches, we're just working V-stitches. So, which is a half double crochet, chain 1, half double, and find the next stitch. Now, see, now notice that we are skipping this half double crochet, which is part of that V-stitch we just completed, and then the next half double, and we work it right there in the chain 1 space. Okay, and we work 1 extra in that turning chain, just like so. Now go ahead, we're going to turn to begin row 8 with the back side facing, chain 3, and you're going to work a half double crochet V-stitch in between each V of the previous V stitches, which is right in that chain 1 space. Let's make sure we get all the strands here. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3 V stitches as I'm working row number 8, and we just do the same, working with the back from the back side. Skip the next 3 stitches on the braid, back post treble, and the next 3 stitches. I just want to try to make sure you can see how I'm finding that stitch. Working in front of these stitches as seen from the front side, we're going to back post treble around those 3 skipped stitches. And then the next 3 stitches, which are right here, 3 more back post treble crochets. Okay, and then another half double crochet. Remember, when the back side is facing, we don't want this side to grow. We just want the side with the V stitches to get larger. Okay, now we're going to turn. We're going to chain 3. That brings us to row number 9. Now rows number 9 through 15 are simply going to be repeating rows 7 and 8. So we're going to repeat rows 7 and 8 3 more times. And remember, now every other row we're going to be adding another V-stitch to this side. So I'm going to go ahead and start row number 9, which is a repeat of row 7. We're going to front post. First of all, we skip the first 3 stitches, then we're going to front post treble in the next 3, and then working in front of these stitches, we're going to front post treble into 3 post stitches that we skipped, remembering to leave that end stitch alone. We're not going to work that one as part of our braid. And then front post treble in the next 3, which are a little tricky to find. If you need to push this down, let me just show you that. If you need to push the part you just worked down, these stitches easily are visible. And now we work our V stitches with our half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet, and we're working them right in the middle of the V stitches. I know I'm repeating myself a lot, but I just want to make sure that I'm clear. Okay, so we worked our 3, and remember now we're adding another one. Add it right there in the 4th. Now we're going to turn, and we'll do another repeat of row 8, but this is technically row 10. So we're going to work a V stitch after we do chain 3. I'm sorry, I almost did chain 2. Chain 3, and then we work half double, chain 1, half double in the V's of each of the V stitches. Okay, so we have 4 V stitches for the rows 9 and 10. And I'll finish this row, skip the next 3 stitches, and we're going to back post treble around the next 3 stitches. And then working in front of these stitches, we're going to front post treble in the 3 post stitches that we just skipped. And then front post treble in the next 3 stitches. Whoops, make sure you get your hook only around those post stitches. And half double crochet in that last stitch, in the turning chain rather. So this is what we have so far. So I'm going to go ahead and work 2 more repeats of rows 7 and 8. So I'm going to work 4 more rows doing the same thing, and then I'm going to show you what you'll do next, because then we're going to do something a little different. Okay, I wanted to show you what you should have after you finish row 15. Okay, notice that I've added a new V-stitch every other row. Okay, so every 2 rows you're going to have 1 extra. At the end of row 15 you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 V-stitches. Okay, now we're going to do something a little different with rows 16 and 17. But what I'm going to show you is going to be repeated throughout the entire pattern. So we're going to turn, we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to work the V-stitch in between the V-stitch as we go across. And we're going to have 7 of them at this particular time. Now as we go through the pattern in different stages as it grows, you're going to have more and more of these. Okay, so that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 V-stitches. Now this is where it gets a little different. We're going to work a row, or the next 9 stitches are going to be worked in order to kind of discontinue the braided cable. So what we're going to do is we're going to work back post double crochets, not treble, double crochets. Just wrap once, and it's a back post double crochet. Okay, now we're not skipping stitches or anything like that. We're going to work them just straight across in the order that the stitches appear. Okay, you should have 1 for each of the stitches in the braided cable, so that would be a total of 9 once we finish these last 3 stitches. Okay, and then after that it says to half double crochet in that turning chain. So let's go ahead and turn and see what we have here. So we've in a sense discontinued this cable stitch, because what we're going to do now is we're going to single crochet across on these stitches. We're going to add some double crochets in these stitches in order to begin a new braid here, and this is what's going to give it this look where it goes up and then it goes in, and then it's going to go up and then in and up. That's just going to continue the pattern. I just wanted you to have a vision of where we're headed with this. So for row 17, I'm going to chain 1. We're going to single crochet in the first stitch, which is this half double crochet. Don't forget that stitch. And then in each of the post stitches of the braided cable. So we're going to essentially have 10 single crochets. Okay, so let's stop and take a look at that. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And when we work the finishing perimeter round of the scarf, we will come back and have a little bit of a lacy stitch to cover this with. So this is not going to be, just a plain Jane stitch. Or if you wanted to leave it like that, you could. But anyway, that's for further down the project. Okay, after we finish our 10 single crochet, we're going to skip this half double crochet, and we're going to work 2 double crochets in that chain 1 space, and then we're going to work a double crochet going through the top loops of that next half double. Okay, we're going to do that 3 times. We're going to skip the next half double crochet. We're going to work 2 double crochets in that chain 1 space, and then 1 working through the top loops of that half double. One more time, skip the half double, work 2 double crochets in that chain 1 space, and then 1 more in that half double. Okay, so this is essentially going to be the foundation row for another braid that we're going to start on the next row. Okay, so now we're just going to work the V stitches. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 V stitches remaining. So let's go ahead and work those. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 more in that turning chain. Okay, so at the end of row 17, this is what you should have. Okay, now we're going to turn, and for rows 18 through 29, we are simply to repeat row 8, then row 7. So row 8, 7, 8, and 7. We're going to do that 6 times. So let's go ahead. We've done this a number of times before. Chain 3. We're going to work our V stitches in each of those V stitches in the center. I'll go ahead and work these across. Well, actually, I'm almost there, so I'll just go ahead and finish this row with you. I don't want to add any confusion at this point. Okay, and this is the last V stitches. We should have 5 for this row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now this is where we begin the braid, but we're going to be doing it with the back side facing, and we work it just the way we have the others. Okay, now remember, this is a part of the V stitch, so we're not going to count this. We're not going to work in this, but we're going to work in these double crochets. So we're going to skip the next 3. We're going to come in the back door for back post treble in the next 3 stitches. Working in front of these 3 stitches as seen from the front side, we're going to come around and we're going to work our back post treble in the 3 skipped stitches. Make sure you don't work around those half double crochets. Okay, we're just interested in the double crochets. And if you want, we can check the front to see if we're doing it. Yeah, that looks about right. And then we're going to back post double in the next 3 stitches, which are here. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and we're going to work, we would at this point would work a half double crochet in the turning chain, but there is no turning chain, so just go ahead and add that half double crochet right here in between the space between the last stitch we worked and that single crochet. Just go ahead and work a half double crochet right in between those 2 stitches there. Okay, so we're going to chain 3, and we're going to repeat row 7 now, which is skip the first 4 stitches, and this should be looking familiar to you. We are going to front post treble in the next 3 stitches, and working in front of these stitches, we're going to front post treble in the next 3 stitches. And front post treble. If you need to push these down to get to these 3 stitches. Here you go. And we're going to work our V stitches now, working them right in the center. I'm going to go ahead and finish those in just a second, but I wanted to show you how this is coming. Okay, so here's the beginning of another braid, and this is where our other braid ended off. So as you can see, we have this little notch that's beginning to form the pattern of our scarf. So we're going to go in, and this braid's going to come out. At the same time, this side is going to continue to grow, and eventually this is going to get larger and larger on this side till it looks like a scarf. So go ahead and repeat rows 8 and then 7 6 times. Okay, so we're going to work this increasing just as we have been with rows 8 and 7 until our braid is as big as this braid, or until we've gone through up to row 29. So go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you what to do next. Okay, after completing row 29, you should have a second braid that looks about like this. Now we're going to turn, and I've already gone ahead and started row 30, which is a repeat of row 16, which is working our half double crochet V stitches all the way across. And remember, this is the part where we're discontinuing this braid. So we are going to now work back post double crochets across each of the 9 post stitches. Okay, and the last 3 here. And then work a half double crochet in that turning chain. We are going to single crochet in the first stitch. That's that half double crochet we worked at the end of the last row, and in each of the 9 post stitches of our braid. Okay, so after we finish this, we should have 10 single crochets across the top, and this is going to be the the second indentation as the shaping of the scarf takes place. After working those 10 single crochets across the top, we're going to work our double crochets in order to form the foundation of a new braid. So we're going to skip that half double, work 2 double crochets in that chain 1 space, and then 1 in the half double crochet. Skip that half double, work 2 double crochets in that chain 1 space, and then 1 in the top of that half double. And we do that one more time until we have 9 double crochets for the foundation of that next braid. Okay, so now we've got that. So now we're ready to just finish out the remaining V stitches of this row. I'll go ahead and finish these V stitches, and then I'll show you what I have at the end of this row. From this point on, you're going to repeat again the rows 17 through 30. Repeat those rows 8 times more. Okay, and when you do that, you'll have a garment that was the size of the one that's on the picture, or the one that I showed you earlier. Now, if you want your scarf to be smaller, you just simply do fewer repeats. If you want this to grow into a very lovely, larger shawl, continue to repeat until you get to the size that you would like. Once you get to that part, then you can go ahead and go to the perimeter round. Now, if you look at the towards the end of the pattern, I will have the row numbers and how many V stitches you should have along the left side of your braids as you go along. So if you want to just check that off, if that serves you, by all means use that. If you don't need that, that's fine. Well, anyway, go ahead and finish this to the size that you prefer, and then I'll come back and show you how to do the perimeter rounds. Now that I've finished several of these braids, I wanted to give you another view of what we have. And I wanted to show something up a little bit on the closer side if I can. And I'm going to use my crochet hook as a pointer, because sometimes what can be confusing is, well, when do I start the next braid? When do I end the next braid and begin the next? Well, each braid consists of 14 rows. So what we want to do is we find that row that began the braid, which is the one with the 9 double crochets, and we find that V stitch, which is right here, and then we just count to 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, stop. 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, so after 14 rows, the back side will be facing. Okay, and the beginning of in that row will end right here over the braid, and that's the row where you work the back post double crochet straight across, and then you will begin the next braid starting with the single crochets across the top of the braid, and then followed by those 9 double crochets as per the instructions. Okay, I just wanted to give you a close-up of that, because that can be a little confusing. Okay, I've just completed through row 142. I wanted to show you what I have. I have 10 of these little braids with the little notch here. I have 10 of these along the side of my scarf, and after the 10th braid, this is the 10th braid, I have 43 V stitches all the way across. Okay, I wanted to show you that before I worked the last row. Now, row 43, this is again the row that we're not adding a V stitch. We just go straight across, and then after row 43, once I get to the corner here, I am going to add, or rather, I'm going to begin my perimeter round around this scarf. Now, if you prefer to make your scarf larger, please feel free to go ahead and do that. Depending on what yarn and size hook you use, I mean, you may not even have to go as far as I've gone here if you're making the scarf. So this is one of those kind of a free form pattern, and well, not really free form, but it's one that you can definitely take liberties with. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you row 43, which is a repeat of row 17 that you've seen before or should have worked before many times. So I'm going to go ahead and work my 10 single crochets in these post stitches of the braid. Remember, I'm just working them in through the top loops. Okay, now that I get those 10 double crochets completed, then I go ahead and work my V-stitches with this half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet. Go ahead and work them all the way across, but do not work one in that turning chain. So go ahead and do that. After completing row 143, that brings us to the turning chain. Instead of doing the usual V-stitch here, we are simply going to work 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, which should turn us now to be working along the straight edge or the row ends of the scarf. Okay, as you work across, you're going to work 2 single crochets in each row end. Okay, 1, 2, whoops. So go ahead and work that 2 single crochets in each row end all the way across to the next corner. After completing 2 single crochets in each row end all the way across, that brings me to the chain, the beginning chain where we started this project. Okay, go ahead and work 4 single crochets in that space. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we're actually going to be working along the row ends where we have the chains and the half double crochets alongside the braids. Okay, just like we did along these row ends, go ahead and work 2 single crochets in each row end. So with each braid having, let's say, 14 rows, so that would be approximately 28 single crochets along the chain. So go ahead and work just along the chain and come to this point and stop. After working 2 single crochets in each row end of the braid, we're going to work 1 single crochet in that single crochet row that runs across the top. We're going to turn, and we're actually going to work another single crochet in there, chain 3, and then work a double crochet in that same spot. Okay, this is making a little edging across the top of the braids. We're going to skip the next stitch. In the next stitch, I'm going to do that again. Single crochet, chain 3, and then a double crochet. Skip the next stitch. In the next stitch, we do that again. Single crochet, chain 3, and a double crochet. And again, skip the next stitch, single crochet, chain 3, and then a double crochet. And we're going to do it one more. Skip the next stitch, single crochet, chain 3, and then double crochet. Okay, and in this little spot here, it's not in the single crochet space, but the next space. Right here, it's in between the last stitch and where this stitch, connects up here to the chain. We're going to just put a single crochet there. Okay, it's just the space that's just past the last single crochet. Now, we're going to work this the same way up the side of all 10 of these braids. So now we begin working on braid number 2. And just to review, we're going to go ahead and do 2 single crochets in each row end. This kind of covers up those end stitches, and it gives some unity to it. It kind of makes them all look very consistent. So if you were worried about that, it won't. Don't worry anymore. It's going to look very nice this way. Okay, so 2 on each end. I'll go ahead and finish this. I'm going to work the top of the next braid just as a review. I go ahead and find that single crochet, work a single crochet. This is like along the side. And then we turn to work across the top, single crochet in the same place where that last single crochet was worked, chain 3, and then a double crochet in that same space. Skip the next stitch, single crochet, chain 3, and then a double crochet. Skip the next stitch, single crochet, chain 3, and then a double crochet. And again, skip the next stitch, single crochet, chain 3, and double crochet. Skip the next stitch, and this will be our last one. Single crochet, chain 3, and double crochet. And remember, find that next stitch and then go right past it in that little space there. Go ahead and work a single crochet. Let's try and pull, make sure I get all the strands. There we go. Now we turn to work along the next braid. But let's just take a look at the 2 braids that we completed. Okay, this just gives a little frilly edge. Now, if you don't like the frilly edge like this and you just want it straight across, feel free to just work a single crochet straight across. Okay, so go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and finish that along all 10 of my braids. Okay, I've worked this repeatedly over the 10 braids, and this is the 10th braid, or the last braid that I worked. And after I complete the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these little stitches across the bottom, like eyelet stitches, I'm going to work each of these in the chain 1 space of the V stitches that we worked. And this is along, the last row that we worked, row 143. Okay, so go ahead and work single crochet, chain 3, and double crochet, working them only in the chain 1 space of the V stitches all the way across. That's single crochet, chain 3, and double crochet, single crochet, chain 3, and then double crochet. So I'm going to go ahead and work this to the corner. Okay, after working that eyelet stitch, that single crochet, chain 3, double crochet all the way across, I'm going to join this in one of the 4. Remember the 4 single crochet we did here? I'm going to join it actually in the second single crochet because I think that will make it look more even. And I'm going to go ahead and give it a chain, give it a tug, and find my scissors, give it a trim, and pull that all the way through. Okay, now that I've trimmed this strand, you may have just 1 or 2, or you may have several that you need to hide. Let me just show you a real quick and easy way to do that. I thread my yarn needle, and I make sure that I have the back side facing, and I will just run this thread underneath stitches in order to hide it. This is going to be an easy one to hide because I have a lot of stitches right here that would hide it quite well. And since it's the same color, I'm not working with multi color changing yarn, this will be much easier to hide. So I'm going to go ahead and I've run it underneath all those stitches like this and give it a nice pull. And you know what, I think that's enough. So I'm going to go ahead and get my scissors again and trim it very close. So this concludes the video for the braided swirl scarf. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. You can reach me at bonniebae@me.com, or you can check out my website, which is bonniebaecrochet.com, or visit me on YouTube and under the same name, and as well as Facebook. God bless. Bye-bye.